My sister, there's just too much money, Shami, in South Africa. A lot. We have a lot of money. Address you seated down because I need the charger. This iPad is slow. Good afternoon, members of the media, the leadership of the EFF, the people of South Africa, the economic freedom fighters. Take this opportunity to thank the people of KwaZulu-Natal province, structures of the EFF, and all ground forces of the movement who came in their numbers to attend the launch of the 2024 election manifesto. The EFF has once more demonstrated that it is the only movement that has a national footprint and exists in every ward and voting district of South Africa. We did this by launching the 2024 election manifesto without busing people from other provinces, as the stadium was filled by the people of KwaZulu-Natal, an undisputable scientific fact that the EFF exists as a mass movement. The EFF 2024 election manifesto and all the commitments we have made are a clear demonstration that our agenda stands for the benefit of the people. We take note that despite the EFF success, the state attempted to undermine our program using tribalism disguised as cultural events and successfully failed. The EFF condemns tribalism, and we must hate tribalism the same way we hate racism. And we call on all our structures and ground forces in KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, Limpopo, Northwest, and all other provinces to remain focused and disciplined without degenerating into tribalistic tendencies. The EFF 2024 Elections Manifesto is a clear program of action, particularly our commitments on land, jobs, energy and electricity, education, public safety, and all other areas under the clarion call, our land and jobs now, stop load shedding. The emphasis on land derives from the fact that 30 years since the attainment of political freedom, 80% of the population continues to occupy less than 10% of South Africa's land. Landlessness is still the lived reality of the majority of our people. The emphasis on jobs is motivated by the sad reality that after 30 years of attempts at addressing the joblessness, more than 15 million capable South Africans who need jobs are unemployed, and with no hope that anything will change unless the current government is changed. The emphasis on now is informed by the fact that 30 years is rather a long time for any political party to keep making empty promises. The emphasis on now is also because our people live in absolute poverty. Similarly, the emphasis on now is because our people are landless. The emphasis on now is because our people are jobless. Yet again, the emphasis on now is because the crisis of racialized poverty, inequality, underdevelopment, landlessness, and joblessness are being experienced now and must be resolved now. The emphasis on stop load shedding is due to the fact that despite many empty promises, the South African government has not brought forth a dependable electricity plan that will guarantee the supply of electricity to all its citizens. We remain resolute that the EFF government will expropriate all land without compensation for equal redistribution in use, create millions of jobs through reindustrialization, using the state, stop load shedding, rebuilding our education system, and fix crime in this country. We remain resolute that the EFF government will prioritize rebuilding of South Africa's defense capabilities, prioritize primary health care, increase social grants, and fight for women to end gender-based violence. This and many other commitments are what will change the lives of our people and deliver economic freedom in our lifetime. We condemn this suspension of the EFF members of parliament. The timing of the suspension was deliberate to prevent the EFF leadership from attending the State of the Nation address, to protect the dying ANC and the incompetent president who is out of touch with reality. The EFF has picked up that Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa continues to misrepresent the achievements of the governing party. He claims that the past 30 years have changed the lives of our people. Yet the past 30 years of so-called freedom has brought nothing to most of our people. He claims that the governing party has built strong institutions to protect fundamental freedoms and human rights of all people. Yet it is the ANC government who massacred 34 mine workers, broad daylight, killed Andries Tatane, and continue to allow students to fall in the pit toilets. He claims that we have a diverse economy whose minerals and agricultural products reach every corner of the world while creating jobs. Yet these sectors remain dominated by whites and our people are massively unemployed. Our honest and truthful view of what transpired in the past 30 years is that apartheid only ended on paper and continued unchanged, particularly in the economy. We continue to export raw material while many of the industries in South Africa have closed since 1994, and it has worsened since Mr. Ramaphosa took over. More than 11 million people are unemployed. There are more than 3 million people in South Africa today who have lost all hope of ever finding a job. Majority of these are young people. 30 years ago in 1994, majority of landowners in South Africa were the white colonial settlers, and 30 years later in 2024, the majority of landowners are still the settlers and their biological descendants. 30 years ago in 1994, wealth was concentrated in the hands of a few white rich people, and 30 years later in 2024, the economy of South Africa is still owned, controlled, and dominated by the very same few rich white people. 30 years ago in 1994, more than 90% of informal settlement dwellers were black Africans. And 30 years later in 2024, informal settlement dwellers still look like me and you. 30 years ago, the levels of black-on-black violence was very high, and 30 years later, the levels of black-on-black violence continue unabated, with more than 27,000 people murdered in 2023. This 30 years of so-called democracy has only brought more wealth to the white minority settlers and condemned our people to perpetuate an endless poverty and suffering. It is the EFF that will bring about true freedom, economic freedom, and change the lives of our people. We call on all our people not to be tricked into believing falsehood by fraudsters who are hell-bent on selling strategic state-owned assets that belongs to our people. Now that we have launched the 2024 election manifesto, we are going to launch provincial manifestos on the following dates. Gauteng Provincial Manifesto launch will be held on the 2nd of March 2024 at Dobsonville Stadium, Johannesburg Region, Soweto. Mpumalanga will be held on the 9th of March 2024 at Kanyamazane Stadium, Enhlanzeni Region, Mbombela. Northwest will be held on the 16th of March 2024 at Uitikong Stadium, Bujanala Region, Rustenburg. Free State Provincial Manifesto launch will be held on the 17th of March 2024 at Zamdela Stadium, Fezile Dabi Region, Sasolburg. Eastern Cape Provincial Manifesto launch will be held on the 21st of March 2024 at Jan Smuts Stadium, Buffalo City, Metropolitan, East London. Northern Cape will be held on the 23rd of March 2024 at Khalishiwe Stadium, Francis Bart, Kimberley. And Western Cape will be held on the 24th of March 2024 at Guguletu Stadium, Cape Metro, Cape Town. The province of Limpopo will host Tselatupa Rally as the final election rally to intensify the campaign towards total electoral victory on a date to be announced in due course. We call on all our structures and ground forces to remain focused and disciplined as we move to consolidate, get our people, young and old, to register to vote and to vote for our land and jobs now and to end load shedding. The EFF is pleased to announce that on the 11th and 12th of February, we held our list conference at the Durban Exhibition Centre, KwaZulu-Natal. The EFF list conference, which was constituted by regional and provincial structures of the EFF, set to consolidate and vote on the names that ought to be submitted to the IEC for seats in the provincial legislatures and parliament after elections. These names will ultimately be considered by the list conference committee, which is constituted by the EFF top 6 officials, and sent to the IEC. The EFF can assure the people of South Africa that it will send the best from within its ranks to lead South Africa, as the list process is defined by criteria that places great emphasis on merit and competence. Some of the criteria includes that 40% of all names from the list must be youth, 50% or more of the names submitted must be women. There must be at least 10 PhD holders in the EFF list to Parliament. A matric certificate is the minimum requirement to form part of the EFF list, an emphasis that those post-matric qualification. All those who seek to return to Parliament must outline what they have done during their tenure as parliamentarians in this previous Parliament. It is the criteria that must be an assurance to South Africans that the EFF is ready to govern, and this will be defined by the character of the public representatives we elect to power. The EFF list conference was a resounding success with no incidents of violence, vote buying, or intimidation, and was yet another confirmation of the EFF's commitment to internal party democracy. Following this, we call on all structures to focus all their energies on the campaign for total election victory, using the EFF's manifesto as the weapon to win the hearts and minds of our people. The campaign must continue to be based on umtu emtwini mutu mutu, as every vote counts in the war for economic freedom. We reiterate the call for Cyril Ramaphosa to announce the election date, as his delay will not save him from his inevitable removal from office. Until then, all South Africans must continue to register to vote on the IEC elections website, as the voters' roll remains open until such a time the election date is proclaimed. We take this opportunity to welcome back home and congratulate Bafana Bafana for their courageous performance and the bronze medal in the recent AFCON competition. We believe that we can build on this progress. We call on SAFA to make sure that they pay reasonable remuneration to players and the technical team for the national team, and ensure that there is an equal pay for Banyana Banyana. We call upon the racist corporate South Africa to sponsor Bafana Bafana and Banyana Banyana, as they are equally important to the development of sports. The EFF reiterates the call by the EFF Student Command that the contracts of all 4 service providers which were irregularly appointed at NSFAS must be terminated with immediate effect, as determined by an independent forensic report. The continued irregularity at NSFAS is something that must be fought tooth and nail if we are to resolve the crisis of funding of students, and this can only be done through uprooting corruption. The EFF notes the recent attacks on Palestine, a clear demonstration of defiance by the racist, genocidal apartheid Israel and their murderers Benjamin Netanyahu, and undermining of the International Court of Justice that ordered Israel to stop. If the bombardment and genocide of Palestinians continues, we'll be left with no choice but to march to the American embassy, as we no longer have the Israeli embassy in South Africa. We will march to the American Embassy as a sponsor of the war and genocide in Palestine. We are proud to announce the return of fighter Siko Gelishe as head of digital communication and stakeholder relations in the President's office. We wish her well in her new responsibilities. I thank you.
Thank you very much, President and Commander-in-Chief. We'll now take our first round of hands. So we'll take 5 hands in the first round and then have responses from the leadership, and then we'll revisit the second round if necessary. So I'll note you as number 1. You can be number 2. You'll be number 3. You'll be number 4. Do I have a number 5? Thank you very much. Number 1. Name, surname, media house.
Thank you very much. My name is Mudiba from the Inside Factor. I just got 2 questions here for the leadership. I see the EFF was the first organization in the top 3 to launch their manifesto. Just wanted to find out if there was a deliberate move from the leadership. And the second question is with regards to Ekurhuleni. When you interact with ANC comrades, there's a sense of 2 factions in the ANC in Ekurhuleni, some which support the EFF, some which are against the EFF. And the leadership of Ekurhuleni, some say that there's a deliberate attempt by those in the ANC to deliberately sabotage anything that happens from the EFF. Anything good that happens in Ekurhuleni automatically falls back to the EFF. Do you think there's a deliberate attempt by the ANC as well to sabotage the EFF in Ekurhuleni going into elections this year? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 2.
Hi there. It's Natasha Perry here from SABC News. Mr. Malema, during your manifesto launch and just also reading through your manifesto notes, you've mentioned that the EFF would end load shedding in 6 months should you take over government. You'll introduce the electricity grants to municipalities, double social grants, introduce a graduate grants, the sovereign grants, but where will the EFF government actually find money to actually fund these commitments that you've made? And secondly, just your reaction to what's happening in the DRC, those 2 soldiers, South African SANDF soldiers that were reportedly killed and 3 wounded. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Number 3.
Good morning. Alpha Ramushwana here from Eyewitness News. Mr. Malema, you started your address by saying that the EFF has proved that it actually has a national footprint. And, you know, the party has always been seen as a national party. And so naturally, we do expect it to fill up a stadium it is expected to fill up a stadium in the KZN where it's a tough terrain to maneuver politically. Why did you feel the need, or why did the party feel the need to defend itself so much from the critics? I mean, it is a national party, and it is expected to fill up a stadium in a place like KZN. Thank you.
Number 4.
Thank you. Sorry. Siyamthanda Chapa, News 24. I've got 2 questions. The first one is regards to the polls. They're not a prediction, everyone knows, but they placed the EFF neck and neck with the DA. Are you confident that the EFF will overtake the DA as opposition officially in the National Assembly? And the ANC right now the ANC leadership is in Moscow. The MPC wrote a statement. It's about a letter reaching out to foreign ministers, basically asking them to come and observe the election. There seem to be concerns around what could happen post the election. And this also comes after the president also made those utterances around regime change at the closing of the ANC Lekgotla. What is your view on what's happening? We've had elections for many years now. It's the IEC is there, DECO is also involved. What's your view on what has happened where the MPC is concerned and the ANC?
Thank you very much. Number 5.
Junior Kumalo from Newsroom Africa. Just to build on what Natasha asked about in terms of the DRC, the soldiers that have been killed, what is the EFF's thoughts around that deployment, the deployment of over 2,900 SANDF officials, as well as the 2 billion that is going to cost the country in terms of that deployment? And also, the EFF has been very resolute in its stance in terms of supporting King Misuzulu. I just wanted to find out what are your thoughts about him having basically fired the chairperson of Ingwenyama Trust and then deploying himself as the chairperson. And lastly, the EFF is going to its elective conference at the end of the year. Is there a scenario where the president and the deputy president would say, if we fail to achieve so-and-so at these upcoming polls, then we will step aside and allow other leadership to take place, to basically take over the party? Thank you.
Thank you very much, President.
Thank you very much. We were the first to launch manifesto in the top 3 because we had set that date for ourselves. Ordinarily, you know, in the election year, the ANC goes first through January 8 statement, and the January 8 statement of that year effectively becomes a manifesto. So we assumed that they will have the usual and then will follow, and then will follow each other in that order. So we were shocked that they didn't want to launch in January for whatever reason. And when we announced that we are going into Moses Mabhida, the ANC also announced that they are coming after us. It's unheard of. It's something that must then teach you as a country that political dynamics have changed. The story that the ANC is a leader of society no longer exists. They are tailing behind the EFF, and that should make us very proud. Look, the Ekurhuleni situation will always be like that, especially on the ANC side. We really don't want to get involved in their internal affairs. The ANC gets upset that the EFF went to unblock a blocked sewer and then tweeted about it, and they're like, you see, they are outshining us. This thing of participating with them in government, how do you get upset by people who are doing work? That's what makes the ANC uncomfortable. But you can learn from those activists and do better. We even go, the EFF public representatives in Ekurhuleni say, well, this is not our department, but we'll ensure that we report this to the relevant authorities and make sure it's attended to. They will not disappear after that. They are going to come back to you on social media publicly that this matter you raised has been resolved. So we are a service delivery orientated kind of an organization. This morning, there was a problem of water in Tongat, in eThekwini. It falls under our department. Immediately when we heard that, we brought that to the attention of the chairperson of the committee, who is an EFF deployee. And we said to him, you must go and make sure that that matter is attended to. The problem with Ekurhuleni is that, eThekwini, is that the municipality, the way it is designed, everything is run by a city manager. So that city manager of eThekwini can run that municipality with powers vested on him without politicians. That's the power he has. Now, he's a man who is who's paranoid. Every deputy manager, they call them deputy managers, deputy city managers. Every deputy city managers, he has declared them enemies. So when they go into a committee to process some procurement of this and that, ultimately he must sign. He says, no, it's a trap. They are setting me up. They want to remove me. So that municipality, more than Kaunda being a problem, the problem is the city manager, who's lazy and half the time out of the country. He travels all over. He doesn't take decisions. The committee sit. Our committee is responsible for what? Almost 80% of the budget of eThekwini. We sit with piles and piles of documents that seek an approval of a city manager, because you can't do anything in eThekwini without the city manager. The man is so incompetent and has got no intention to move because everything is a setup. Why can't he go himself to sit in those committees? He's holding service delivery like this on simple issues that can be fixed. The naked eye can see where the problem lies and needs people to come and fix. When it is matters that fall within the municipality and the insourced workers of municipalities can be called to come and attend to those issues, we do so. I went to address a community meeting in eThekwini, and then a mother stood up there and said, there is a sewer that runs into our house, and it has been like this for some time now. The chairperson of eThekwini stood there and said, as the mother was speaking, I went behind the truck to call the department. They are on their way. I won't leave here until that matter was solved. He sent me pictures and videos at 2 a.m. that the problem is now resolved. And with him being on site, that is the kind of leadership we are providing to this country. So, Ikuruleni, there is TK faction. There is Mzwandile faction. The guys were together. Why they fought and they are fighting like this, it's a problem. Then you've got Doctor, who is a convener, who belongs to TK stroke Lesufis faction. Then you've got this one who hates the EFF with passion. Jongezizwe, who works with Mzwandile Masina to sabotage that municipality. If that municipality fails, is Mzwandile Masina using Jongezizwe to sabotage and blocking of a toilet. They don't want that. They even go to an extent of making a presentation in the higher structure of the ANC that participation with the EFF in government makes the EFF shine. How? Njani? Because we all have reps. Why are the EFF reps don't stop ANC reps from doing their work? The guys are not doing their work. They are obsessed with opulence and showing off. That is their life. That's why they can't dirty their hands and get into a manhole to unblock the sewer. A councillor of the ANC, and you, comrades, did not even write about it. A councillor, a ward councillor of the ANC, went to physically block Commissar Thembi Msani when she was unblocking a sewer. Physically blocked her. You can't unblock the sewer in my ward. Labour, you love your poo-poo. No, not in my ward. You can't unblock. That's the ANC caliber of people you have. You can't unblock a sewer in my ward. It's there on social media. You can find it. ANC ward councillor stopping service delivered because it's done by EFF. And it's not done by EFF. It's a municipality. Those people, this is an MMC. The workers are a municipality. Not in my ward. In my ward, the ANC loves sewer running all over the streets. I'm not telling you theory. I'm telling you things that you can easily refer to. And I hope this EFF communication will go back to replay these things. Or this is what the CIC was talking about. My sister, there's just too much money, Shami, in South Africa. A lot. We have a lot of money. Just tell me, why do we need deputy ministers? Why do we need such a big cabinet? Why should the president spend 600,000 in food in a jet? Is he eating golden eggs or what? There is just too much. Our state-owned enterprises have got the capacity to generate a lot of income for us. Illicit financial flows and tax avoidance that robs South Africa of its monies needs a decisive leadership. From corporate tax alone, if properly collected, we can finance higher education free of charge. With, not corporate tax, with mining tax alone. The mining companies, including that one that killed people in Marikana, London mine, which Cyril Ramaphosa was part of, it was confirmed that they are engaged in illicit financial flows and tax avoidance, because it is a general practice. It is a general practice in mining. The haves in South Africa do as they wish. They are not paying their taxes. They don't pay their taxes. And then, in the same manifesto you refer to, we're talking about taxing the rich. Desmond Tutu spoke about that when he was still alive. And no one has ever hurled insult on him. So I hope you won't do that on me, because I'm just repeating what Archbishop said at that time. He said, we must tax the rich. There's money. We don't want VAT at 15%. It must go to 14% because it's heavy on the poor. It's heavy on the poor. Yet the rich are left alone without being taxed and without being made to contribute to the well-being and the socio-economic development of this country. So the money is there. You remember we were eating billions during COVID. We didn't know where they came from. When they were eating those billions, can you imagine? You spend billions. Till to date, there is nothing physical you can point at that those billions that were spent during COVID, this is what they did. Even in the State of the Nation addresses, they were pretending to be claiming all this development. They never said to you, during COVID we built this hospital. During COVID we bought these ambulances. During COVID, with the money we did this. They simply don't account for that money of COVID because it made them more richer. South African deployment of soldiers to DRC is out of order. It must be withdrawn with immediate effect. Not that South Africa is not supposed to deploy in DRC. We're supposed to deploy in DRC and be in the forefront. We just don't have the army. Our army can't look after cabbages. I can't hire them in my farm to go and look after cabbages. We just don't have the army. The ANC has collapsed the army. That's why in the manifesto of the EFF we say, we will finance the army and make sure that it's properly trained and the necessary equipment needed for the success of the army is provided. The army has collapsed. How come the AK-47s just enter South Africa with ease? Look at what KwaZulu-Natal has become now, where guns are found with ease. AK-47 is associated with Mozambique. It's even on their logo. The flag of Mozambique has got AK-47 because that is a weapon of their choice. It has never been for us. Unless in exile, in MK and APLA and all of that. But we as a country, we don't count amongst ourselves the weapons that we prefer, AK-47. So it tells you this thing is entering somewhere. Where is the army? It's not there. There's no army. So they are sent there to be killed. because they are not properly trained. They must come back home, and we must stop with any military deployment until we are fit and proper. Just take a walk and look at a South African soldier walking. You see a demoralized man who's carrying a rifle, and you see that rifle is heavy on him. He's not even fit to carry that rifle. They killed it. So, Cyril Ramaphosa wants to kill our children in DRC. Those rebels, DRC, they are well equipped. Who goes to a base of an army if you know that thing is an army and is powerful? You go to the base once you have undermined them. Base. That's why all of the army in the battlefield, when things are bad, they are called to retreat to the base. Because that's where you can regroup and attack. No, they come to a base. That's how weak you are. They come to your base and finish you off in your base. We were undermined to that level. And it's not for the first time. We were beaten in Central African Republic. Also in the base. We are attacked in the base. What kind of an army is this one that get easily attacked in a base? If you are saying you've got the army, and with so much money being used to go and finance the ANC election campaign. Because that's what they are doing. They are sending those soldiers there. The last time, you remember, the soldiers, SG, were complaining that they are deployed, was it July unrest or something? They didn't have food. They didn't have food. The soldiers did not have food. So who's going to fight with an empty stomach? How are you going to shoot that rifle with an empty stomach? They are not being fed. The situation has deteriorated. How do you have a base of the army in Northern Cape burning down without the army having the capacity to extinguish the fire itself? What if it was another country burning our army base? How is there? We're not going to defend ourselves. So many soldiers died in that base because there are no necessary equipment to deal with emergency like that. So, for you to open a lodge, SG, or to open this building, you are always asked, where are your safety plans? And they even want fire extinguisher certificates and all of that. Lodges of South Africa are more safer than army bases of South Africa. Because the army base has got no fire extinguisher. To a point where the army base gets burned and our brothers die. On a normal day, it's not war. On a normal day, it's not a war. You are sitting like that, the fire starts. It's not like, okay, we're fighting them, they are burning this side, we have to extinguish this side and run to the... On a normal day, there is a fire coming from there. It burns all of you. The last line of defense. So I will never agree that there must be any army of South Africa deployed anywhere, not under the circumstances. We have to re-equip and retrain our army. They say there are 2 fighter jets, what do you call it, Roy Falk, there in DRC with these soldiers. They are there. We are paying for them and all of that. They've never been in the air for more than a year. For more than a year. What are they doing in DRC? Because those are fighter jets. They must go there to fight. Get decoration, get art. In the base, they're using Roy Falk as art. Decoration, plumb board. Oh, you take the whole Roy Falk, you turn it into plum pot. My brother, we are not entertaining critics.